In Detroit, 1957, we see a car manufacturing plant where numerous Plymouth Furies are being constructed. Among the otherwise dull-colored vehicles, one catches the eye, a vibrant red one. During the assembly process, a particular factory worker is fussing over this red car when his hand gets caught as the hood slams down on it. Another worker sits inside the car, only to be found dead later. Fast forward to September 16th, 1978, in Northern California. Arnie Cunningham is a shy teenager who spends his weekends playing Scrabble with his parents, who still treat him like a child. Arnie and his best friend, Dennis Gilder, are heading to school as usual. Arnie is awkward, and his black-rimmed glasses give him a nerdy appearance. Dennis is a football player who still supports Arnie and tries to defend him. During shop class, Arnie is tormented by several students led by Buddy Repperton.
You want it? Come get it!
Dennis attempts to stop the bullies, but Buddy crushes Arnie's lunch and also breaks his glasses. When both Arnie and Dennis report that Buddy had a switchblade when he taunted Arnie, it seems that the only consequence will be bad for Arnie, as Buddy threatens to get even soon. Arnie and Dennis start their way home. Arnie notices a used Plymouth Fury with a "for sale" sign. It seems to be the same car from the Detroit assembly line, but now it's dirty, run down, and falling apart. Despite this, Arnie becomes enamored with it. He immediately wants to purchase it. The owner, George LeBay, tells Arnie that he inherited the car from his late brother, Roland. George also reveals the car's name, Christine. Arnie drives Dennis home in his new car. When they arrive, Arnie's overbearing parents angrily reprimand him for spending his money on a car without consulting them, especially one in such poor condition. Arnie shouts that they never allowed him to have anything he truly desired and is determined to keep Christine. However, his parents refuse to let him park it in their driveway. Arnie decides to store it in a local junkyard garage run by a grumpy middle-aged man named Will Darnell.
What is it about that car, huh?
Over the following weeks, Arnie spends his free time after school working on Christine and also helps Mr. Darnell with his garage. One day, Dennis and some friends discuss a new student, Lee Cabot, and challenge Dennis to approach her in the library. Dennis accepts the challenge, but when he sits at Lee's table and asks her out, she tells him she already has a date. Dennis leaves embarrassed by the rejection and later goes to Arnie's house to talk, as they haven't spent much time together lately. There, Dennis notices a subtle change in Arnie. He seems more confident. Strangely, Arnie has stopped wearing his glasses. He doesn't want to talk to Dennis and quickly leaves to do some extra work for Darnell. His mother tries to stop him, but Arnie ignores her. She then speaks with Dennis, expressing concern about Arnie and his new car, as she has discovered that the previous owner took his life inside the car. Upon hearing this, Dennis visits George's house, and George recounts the story of his brother's obsession with Christine, even after his wife and daughter died in it. To make matters worse, the car mysteriously reappeared at George's house weeks after his brother's death. This information worries Dennis, and by the end of the day, he decides to check the car at the garage. When he arrives, he tries to enter, but as soon as he grabs the handle, the radio starts playing, and Dennis runs off before anyone sees him. The next morning, during a football game, Dennis is shocked to see Arnie drive Christine, now fully restored and gleaming, with Lee sitting next to him.
Go!
The sight of them together distracts Dennis, causing him to make a mistake on the field and get tackled hard. Days later, Dennis is now in the hospital with a broken leg and fractured neck. Arnie has come to check on him, and they resume their old friendship. Dennis reveals that, because of the accident, he will never play football again and almost become paralyzed. He also asks how Arnie managed to fix Christine so quickly, but Arnie simply says that he worked hard. The conversation shifts when Arnie mentions that he made his parents register the car in his name, or else he would drop out of school. Dennis notices how much Arnie's personality has changed, and something dark seems to be growing within him. Arnie continues dating Lee. One night, he takes her to a drive-in movie, where Lee confesses that she feels things are moving too fast in their relationship. She also says she feels uneasy around Christine. During the movie, one of Christine's windshield wipers becomes stuck, and Arnie steps out to fix it. As he does so, Lee chokes on a hamburger, and the car's doors lock themselves. Arnie can't get back in, and Lee has to save herself with the help of a passerby who performs the Heimlich maneuver. Arnie then drives Lee home. At her doorstep, she tells him she won't go near Christine again. She claims the car seems to be jealous of Arnie, as strange things happen whenever they are together. Also, only old songs play on the radio, and none of the local stations can be tuned in. Arnie dismisses this as her paranoia, promising they'll talk the next day. Arnie returns to Christine, but the car won't start. He tries to talk to her.
It's all right. Everything is the same.
He tries again, and the car starts. Arnie returns Christine to Darnell's garage. After Arnie leaves, Buddy and his gang arrive and begin destroying the car. One thug starts tearing apart the seats and smashing the radio. The next day, Arnie and Lee go to the garage to retrieve Arnie's wallet from the car. But when they arrive, Arnie is stunned to see Christine completely wrecked. Arnie suspects Lee was somehow responsible, and when she tries to support him, Arnie can't control his anger and forces her to leave. The next morning, Arnie immediately heads to the garage to continue working on Christine. Determined, he searches for his tools. As he turns away from the car, he hears the sound of metal wrinkling behind him. Arnie gazes at Christine, taken aback, and realizes that part of her engine has been repaired as if by magic. His surprise fades, and he urges Christine to complete the restoration in front of him.
Okay. Show me.
The car flickers her headlights on, and with obedience, parts shift back into their rightful places. Later on the highway, one of Buddy's associates, Moochie, he hears the sound of an engine in the distance. He draws closer and encounters Christine, who pulls onto the road and halts in front of him. Alarmed, Moochie suspects that Arnie is inside and tries to justify his actions, but the car switches on her headlights and accelerates toward him. Moochie dashes as fast as possible and narrowly leaps over a barrier just before the car reaches him. He believes he's evaded the vehicle, but Christine soon appears again, pursuing him. Ultimately, Moochie finds himself cornered, trapped with nowhere to go, and the car stops before him, awaiting his next move. With no escape, he brandishes a pocket knife, threatening the driver, but Christine starts inching forward. Despite the narrow alley, she forces her way through and crushes him. The following morning, Arnie is confronted by Detective Junkins, who claims to be investigating the destruction of his car and Moochie's death, whose body was found dismembered. Arnie denies knowing about Moochie's demise, though he is oddly pleased by the news. The detective grows suspicious of Arnie and reveals that he's heard from Arnie's girlfriend Lee about the strange restoration of the car. This causes Arnie to lose his temper, and he storms off. Later, Arnie calls Lee, attempting to persuade her to meet, but she refuses, only deepening his fury.
Well, fuck you, bitch!
Meanwhile, Buddy and Rich buy drinks at a convenience store and head off down the road. Halfway there, a car with its headlights on begins chasing them. Buddy halts to check who it is, but the headlights obscure his view. He tries to evade the car by reversing, only for the vehicle to follow suit, revealing itself to be Christine. Annoyed, Buddy accelerates, but eventually pulls into a gas station where Vandenberg works. He exits his car, pulls out a metal rod. Christine crashes into Buddy's car, crumpling it completely. Buddy, suspecting Arnie is inside, dares him to face him, but Christine speeds toward Buddy's car again, this time ramming it into the workshop. Rich, who is inside, is propelled with the car and slams against the wall. The wrecked car starts leaking gasoline, and the entire garage explodes upon contact with the gasoline. Witnessing this, Buddy flees in fear, but Christine emerges from the burning garage, engulfed in flames, and chases after her next victim. Eventually, Christine runs him over, leaving his body in flames. Sometime later, Darnell hears an approaching car, and when he opens his garage doors, he sees Christine, covered in smoke. Darnell finds it strange, especially since Arnie had gone to do a job with his car. Armed with a shotgun, he approaches the vehicle to investigate. When he tries to open the door, it is unbearably hot. Using an old rag, he manages to pry it open, only to find no one inside. Christine takes advantage of this oversight, killing Darnell by crushing him slowly against the steering wheel. The next day, Arnie visits the garage and is met by several police cars. Inside, he encounters Detective Junkins, who informs him that Darnell was found lifeless inside the car. Strangely, it seems as though Darnell took his own life, as his gun was found with him in the vehicle. The detective also informs him of the deaths of Buddy, Rich, and Vandenberg.
Guess nobody'd be trashing your car anymore.
Meanwhile, Dennis returns home and receives a call from Lee, who insists on speaking with him. She comes over and shares her suspicions that the car is controlling Arnie, making him act violently and erratically. After the conversation, Lee leaves, but Arnie soon appears with Christine. He invites Dennis to take a drive, but Arnie's behavior is unsettling. He begins drinking excessively, speeds recklessly, and even lets go of the steering wheel, letting the car drive itself. Dennis, growing worried, repeats Lee's warning, but Arnie dismisses him, threatening that nothing and no one will come between him and Christine. To prove his point, Arnie accelerates to full speed and swerves into oncoming traffic, narrowly avoiding a collision. When Dennis finally parts ways with Christine, he is more unsettled than ever. He resolves to put an end to the nightmare, believing that destroying Christine is the only way to restore Arnie. The following morning, Dennis scratches Darnell's Tonight into Christine's and drives off with Lee. They head to Darnell's garage where they wait for Arnie and Christine inside a bulldozer. As night falls, Dennis executes his plan, instructing Lee to trap Christine inside the office by closing the door behind her arrival. Lee moves into position, but just as she approaches, Christine's headlights pierce through the darkness. She was hiding under a pile of debris and charges toward Lee, attempting to run her over, but crashes into one of the office walls instead. Arnie is ejected through the windshield and impaled on a shard of glass, fatally wounding him. Bloodied, Arnie touches Christine's bumper one last time, caressing it in his final moments, dying contentedly. Furious, Christine turns her wrath on Lee once again. Dennis, operating the bulldozer, engages Christine in combat. As Christine sets her sights on Lee, Dennis drives the bulldozer onto her rear, halting her and crushing her partially. Lee climbs into the bulldozer's cab, embracing Dennis.
Are you okay?
But Christine regenerates and begins to heal. Dennis drives the bulldozer over Christine again, crushing her into a thin layer of metal and glass until her headlights flicker and shut off permanently. In the final scene, Dennis, Lee, and Detective Junkins stand by as Christine is compacted into a cube. The nightmare seems to be over, but within the cube, a metallic rod slowly begins to stir and straighten up. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on the next one. Fear awaits you.